Hello, my name is Maria Fernanda Lopez Armas, and this is my presentation for the evidence 3 of this course of Contemporary World. First of all, I'm going to start with a list of events that had an importance in the international scene. So, first, there is the German reunification, which was a political process that occurred during the 1990s, in which the German Democratic Republic and the Federal Republic of Germany formed the new nation of Germany. And this occurred after the emblematic fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. And this reunification was made official in October 3rd of 1990. Then there is the bombing of the World Trade Center. This happened on February 26th of the year 1993, when a truck bomb was detonated just below the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And the original plan was to send the North Tower to the south, bringing both down, and to kill 10,000 people. But it failed, and it only killed 6 people and it injured more than 1,000. And this attack was planned by a group of around 10 terrorists. Then there is the attack to the Twin Towers, and this happened on September 11th of 2001. Here, 2 airplanes were hijacked by terrorists and crashed into the Twin Towers, destroying the whole complex. It killed 2,977 victims, and this later led to the declaration of war to Iraq. Another event I have is when the euro became official in Europe. On January 22nd of 2002, the new European currency, the euro, became official in 12 countries, which later became to be known as the Eurozone. The original currencies were no longer accepted after February 28th of 2002. After this, there is Barack Obama's election, and he is the first African American United States president, and he was officially inaugurated as a president on January 20th of 2009. 9 months after his inauguration, he won the 2009 Nobel Peace Prize, and he was re-elected as president in November of 2012, defeating Romney. And finally, there is the resignation of the Pope Benedict XVI and the election of the Pope Francis. This resignation occurred on February 28 of 2013, and he stated that the reason for his decision was his declining due to health issues because of his old age. And then Pope Francis was elected during the conclave that started on March 12 of 2013. And now I'm going to move on and talk about some terms and make some reflections about them. First of all, there is globalization, which it is the historical process that began with our human ancestors moving out of Africa to spread all over the world, the globe. Globalization implies the opening of local and nationalistic perspectives to a broader outlook of an interconnected and interdependent world with free transfer of capital, goods, and services across national frontiers. It is a worldwide movement toward democratic financial, trade, and communications integration, also known as the tendency of business technologies or philosophies to spread through the world or the process of making this happen. So, the question to reflect here is, why did the globalization emerge? And this was to improve what already existed in in an slightly more local context, and whether to extend globally in technology, economic traits, etc. So here are some examples of factors that help influence globalization, which are the improvement of transportation. For, for example, having larger cargo ships meant that the cost of transporting goods between countries decreased. The freedom of trade with organizations like the World Trade Organizations to promote free trade between countries, and finally, improvement of communications like the internet and mobile technology, which allowed greater communication between people in different countries. After this, there's the concept of terrorism, and it can be a little bit complicated to understand this, and it kind of depends on the context we're talking about. So, I think that terrorism can have two totally different meanings. Firstly, in a term of society and well being of a ground of people, terrorism can be described as the crime and the cowardly act of the use of violence in measureless ways against innocent people in order to claim different benefits for in a specific organization. So these benefits are always focused on political, religious, or ideological facts. But on the other hand, if we're talking about military and political point of view, terrorism takes another meaning. In this case, this concept can be described as a tactic and strategy inside an armed conflict. This strategy is used by the weak opponent in most of the cases, which is looking for taking control of the psychological situation and introduce terror to a whole country or state. And the reflection in here is, in most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of the 20th century? In my point of view, the terrorist attacks of the 20th century in most cases are related to religion in the world. So this shows us a great intolerance in the society and how it is difficult to accept that not all of us share the same perspective of these different themes. And in addition to this, I think that terrorism in the United States has been a result of the different type of society that the country has, and also for their military invasions and its way of interfering in different conflicts that are not of their business or of their interest. And for example, in the other hand, if we analyze the recent attacks of Paris, and we make a research, we can see that this attack was a result of revenge and unconformity of several Arab groups. And if we think about all the aspects above, the result will be a notorious intolerance and the lack of respect on beliefs of each individual. Next, we have the unipolar world. And this is when a single superpower dominates and has control over the rest of the world. So all the power is concentrated in one single pole or superpower who is considered a major player in international affairs. And the question here is, how does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? Well, the end of the Cold War meant that the previous decade's superpower rivalry between the Soviet Union and the United States, its states came to an end. And after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which marked the end of the Cold War, and the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the United States was able to surface as the dominant power, since its only rival had been beaten and was no longer able to battle for power with them. So this allowed the United States to get more involved in the international issues, become dominant, expand its economic and military capacity, even influence other cultures, for example with its language, culture, food, lifestyle, etc. And it became basically the ruling and most powerful country of the world. And finally, we have the digital era. And this term can also be called digital revolution or informatics. And it refers to the improvement and advance of technology from analog and electronic and mechanical devices to the digital technology we have nowadays. This era started in the 1980s and it's currently still in progress and growing. The digital revolution, sometimes called as the third industrial revolution, also marked the beginning of the information era. And here the question is, how has the digital era influenced today's society? So, this phenomenon has marked our epoch, our time, especially this generation, and has brought both good and bad consequences. So, as we know, the creation of the internet is the most important event in this revolution, and thanks to it, we are able to communicate and do business, having tools of sending and receiving emails, document pictures, audios, videos, buying and selling almost everything online, making travel arrangements, pay bills, get news, and be able to enjoy entertainment with such as with social networks or video games. And nowadays we have advanced to more than just internet, having also new methods such as computer aided design, 3D printing, robots like Baxter that are able to do some tasks, and many advances in medicine as well. And in other fields such as education, labor, and personal level, have also suffered a great impact because of the digital era. Since it grew and helped these fields to improve in many ways. And on the other hand, many researchers and estimation state that productivity growth since 1980 has been significantly lower than the post-war period of 1947 to 1980. This means that digital technology doesn't increase productivity because its impact hasn't spread far enough, and because maybe we haven't used it in a correct way, totally losing the objective of these advances. And that would be it for my presentation as the evidence 3 of this course. Thank you for your attention.